Most men, most men will only experience unconditional love from their mothers, and some of us don't even get that. Most of us have never even felt appreciation or respect without conditions or hidden intentions. We don't know what it sounds like to hear, "I see you, and I'm proud of you. I'm glad you're here. You really make a difference," yet the expectation is to constantly be displaying the strength and love that the world is hesitant in conveying. We're expected to have a thick skin but get judged if it turns to a hard shell. The first step in being a man is ignoring the hunger. Cause yes, boy, you're gonna be starving. Starved of attention, starved of affirmation, starved of love, starved of being told that you are enough. Step 2 in being a man is comfortability with replaceability. You are only as good as you are useful. You are only as valuable as you are needed by others. Should there ever come a day, boy, where you fail to provide everybody with a smiling face, then do not be surprised when they say all men do is take up space.
Oh, my More Brothers. The clip that you just heard was found by Marcus at Keep It 100. And it's really something that in my time in the manosphere, in the black manosphere, has been reiterated over and over and over again. And something that I've been saying and Kevin was trying to say quite a long time ago, before he died, over and over again about the low-level contempt and almost hatred that black women have for their men. And Clark kind of intimated that, from his book, Dark Ghetto. The same thing, the way that you're seen and the little amount of love that you feel or see from your women. But the reason that I'm giving this morning talk, hopefully it's not too long, is that I was listening to the book of Boys and Men by Richard Reeves about the plight of the modern day males in the society. And all the stats that he was given, Chetty went through the stats back in 2017, and a lot of stats that he was given, especially about black boys, we've heard them, we've seen them, we've read them, we put them out, we've disseminated them. And there's one stat that stood out completely to me. And I've reviewed this. If I can go back and find the charts, because sometimes I lose the charts. In the 1960s, even in the 1960s, when civil rights was going on, right? This is even before the affirmative action. The earnings ladder, the earnings hierarchy was white men, black men, white women, and then black women. But white women didn't really participate in the labor force as much, but they roughly earned a little bit more than black women. It's in 1960. And Reeves said the same thing. By 1980, white women had closed the gap and caught black men, right? By 2000, they had surpassed black men in average earnings. White men still earn more. White women are second. Black men are ahead maybe by 10% over black women. We have been pushed down that far. But what's significant, and this is the reason they don't talk about the wage gap, especially for black men. What he said is that in the year 2000, and the figures I think he said now, the white women surpassed the black men as far as earnings in the 90s, but now as it stands, the wage gap between black men and white women, 14%. White women earn 14% more than black men. That's how far black men has fallen. And these are workers. We're not even talking about unemployment and labor participation. Earnings. Black men earn 14% less than white women. Black men used to earn 20% more than white women back in the 60s and 70s. Now it's completely reversed and black men earn 14% less. Start hearing numbers like this, it's depressing. Reeves talked about the Moynihan Report. It's something that we've been saying. It's like they've been channeling the black manosphere. Reeves was talking about the Moynihan Report and the tangle pathology where black males could only escape the lower classes for one generation only. 6 years later, it has proven to be true. He talked about the unique disadvantages of black men in earnings, in school, with the justice system. It's easier for a white guy with a high school diploma to get a job than it is for a black man with a bachelor's. In fact, I do believe, don't quote me on this. Got to ask my good friend, Dr. Johnson, is this true? Because I think I've heard it from him, but don't quote me on this. It's easier for a white man, a white man with a high school diploma that has a record, has a criminal record to get a job than a black man with a bachelor. This system is still toxic to black men. And I know a lot of guys in the manosphere want to talk about this empowerment. We want to talk about this empowerment. We want to raise up every black man to this 6 high value man, this 100K level. And I even heard Obsidian give the estimate of 10% of black men actually earning 100K. It's 4%. I don't care how many times you show the numbers, it's only 4%. They talked about black men, or men, period. This is the reason Reeves wrote the book, is because the same thing that's happening to black men is happening to white men. In fact, it's happening globally. And really what they're afraid of is that men around the whole world are just going to give up on the civilization and just not do anything. Men are the backbones of any civilization. The civilization will disappear and dissipate without the men's participation. Reeves admit that you have dumped money and resources into women over the past 50 years. And he said the reason of the American economy, of the wealth of America, is because the trillions of dollars or the trillions of hours that women have put into this labor market, right? You injected women into this labor market. And so if you dump all the resources and all the advantages into white women, guess what you're going to get? You're going to get the wealth gap between white and black, but nobody fucking talks about that. That's taboo. And it's been taboo for 50 years, but now they have to do it because guess what? This civilization is in crisis. If they cannot motivate these men to participate, because what you socialize them to do is to participate, to be providers, to be breadwinners. Even the feminists, were saying this 10, 15 years ago. I got 4 books. The feminists say the exact same thing, but now the white men are getting it because now it's affecting them. And it's not just locally in the United States, this is global. It's all across the world. Now Washington, we have a problem. And it didn't just start in the year 2000, okay? When white men went through a heat session where they all lost their jobs, or the deportation of jobs out of the country and manufacturing base out of the country to Asia and in Mexico, so that certain people can make more money. This started in the 1960s. This started when Moynihan actually sounded the alert that this is a problem. Reeves actually is talking about the incentivization of women not to get married and not to participate in a nuclear family. And it was fine. Welfare was okay. It was a black thing until it wasn't. Environment informs female behavior more than anything else. And I've said that from the very beginning. And I've been proven right more times than I can count. But the thing that depresses me, Reeves going through all these numbers, about men and about the disadvantage of boys in this feminized school system. And the numbers, the skewed numbers where the men, period, all men of all colors are looking at the same thing, the same kind of numbers reflected back to the black men had back in the 1960s. Looks exactly the same. 70% of your valedictorians coming out of high school are female, right? That was 75% back in the 1940s and 50s with the black community. You've literally turned all of America into a gynocracy. Literally. Look at the numbers. Like you said, 40% of white women out-earn their men. 40%. 40% of white women are breadwinners in their family. 40%. And it's got to be 60% in the black community. Nobody thought about anything. The smartest people in the world never thought what it was going to do to preceding generations. If you dump that much money and skew the resources of a society to one gender and expect men, especially black men, to keep up. It's impossible. Ain't enough jobs, ain't enough tech jobs, okay? Ain't enough tech jobs, ain't enough good jobs to revert this. There's not enough, there's a zero-sum game. It's a zero-sum game. If you give women positions of power, give them well-earning jobs, there's only so many in any society. I don't care where you look. Go back in history. There's never been a flat society, ever. You take a position from a man that needs to provide for his family, guess what? That means that woman is going to have to provide for her family, just like that man would. But we don't have that. Like you said, culture doesn't move that fast. In 40 years, you've upended the culture because you thought that people could adjust. Nurture over nature. Found out it wasn't true. Now what you need to do is find a solution before your men give up. Your boys have given up. Why do you think they play video games? Why do you think they don't engage? Why do you think they don't even date? There's no purpose to it. Why do you think it's all about sex and hooking up? There's no purpose to being with that woman. They saw that with the tangle of pathology. In Clark's book, black boys and black men did certain things, the certain impermanence with mating is because there was no hope. There was no future. Talked about automation. I know he's skewing it because he said men were more likely to actually not have jobs in the professions. Automation and machines are actually going to replace them more than the women. I say BS. I know you tilted it a little bit, a lot. Most of the AIs are going to replace women's jobs. We're already seeing it, but that's neither here nor there. You socialize boys in a certain manner. You basically socialize men and boys and feminize men and boys over the past 50 years. And then you expect them to be the masculine breadwinners that their forefathers were. Then you try to demand that they became the same provider protectors that they were. Human beings have to be taught. Human beings have the ability to learn because they have so little instincts hooked up. Human beings come in a base, like a base empty computer for the most part, right? There's certain leanings and survival instincts that's wired into them, but things they have to be taught, they have to be shown. And you've done a very good job in the society. It's not just here. It's all of the West has done a very good job of tamping down the males and feminizing them, trying to turn little boys into little girls. I'm not shocked. I mean, they did this in Rome too. They were trying to turn little boys into little girls and marry them off as wives. So basically castrating little boys is not new. Rome did it. Greece did it. It means your society is decaying. The only difference is it's decaying more rapidly than people thought. Okay, he mentioned everything we mentioned, but about statistics. He mentioned the shotgun wedding, where men were forced to marry women that they impregnated. And he said the same thing that we talked about 6-7 years ago, about out of wedlock births being normalized, and the view that you don't need a father in the home to have a family. And these are white people. These are Latin people. These are not black. So that tangle of pathology that Clark talked about, in the 60s, not only went through the whole black community, but it's spreading not only to the white community, but spread throughout the whole world. Colombia, even though it's a different culture and it doesn't quite work the same way, 85% out of wedlock birth rate. The tangle of pathology has infected Latin America. Same tangle of pathology. And what you find out is when you marry that with working females, because black females have always worked. They've always had a measure of independence from their men. And our welfare deal was actually exacerbated. It made it worse. But we've talked about all this, and hearing Richard Reeves read his book and give the stats is like rereading my research that I've done over the past 8 years, to the point where we get a young man reading a poem about his place in the world and how the world, not only the world, but his own women see him. And Clark said the same thing back in 65 in Dark Ghetto. It's not new. It's not new. Same shit. But it's been compounded not only by our culture, our negative culture, but also white culture. Look at the current flock of superhero movies, right? Where women are dominant. Look at any Disney cartoon. Look at the Disney cartoons on TV where the females are dominant and boys are incompetent. And these are white boys eating this stuff up. And then it's compounded when you get to school. And you wonder why boys give up on college? You wonder why boys give up on school? But nobody talks about how to correct it, do they? Nobody talks about how to correct it because nobody cares. And the only reason these people care is because it's happening to white boys. If it was happening to black boys only, they wouldn't care. Your women don't care. That's what I was trying to tell Amawali. Even Amawali, who's a staunch anti-manosphere guy. When I told him about SYSBM and that our own women do not care about our plight and are not willing to help us, he could not argue. Could not argue the point. For 50 years, black women and black females have done nothing for your boys. They've done nothing for your men, if you can call them your men. I've seen there's only a handful of women that actually advocate for black boys. I do mean a handful. And trust me and believe Dr. Johnson keeps up with these people. I got books from 4 prominent white women talking about the plight of their men and what to do with them, how to equalize things, how to save their freaking families. 4 of them. I have yet to see one book from a black female, a prominent black female, about the plight of their boys and men and what they can do to help them. One. If there's one, please put it in the chat. Let me read it and see what it says. Dr. Johnson used to routinely ask what programs are out there for boys and men. Routinely ask, are there specific scholarships for black boys? Are there specific programs for to actually get black male entrepreneurs and businesses off the ground? He can never find them. Why? Because nobody fucking cares. I wish the black community, black women, the black community would just say, we don't give a shit about our men and boys. Get it out the mud, do it for yourself, because we're not going to help you. Just go ahead and say it. We are not going to help you. Go ahead and admit it. This angst that we're going on about saving the black community, shaming black men for going overseas to find whatever they're going to find, right? Shaming them for dating out. Not one argument, I don't care by male or female, is even arguing about what you can do to help them. It's always black men need to come back, work harder, work double time to help the black women and black children out of this morass. Constantly, you got to come back, you got to work harder, you got to impress her, you got to make this certain amount of money so that you can do something and change her mind, change the direction of her wilding ways, and get this black family back to some kind of centeredness, some kind of normalcy. No goddamn people are talking about how you're going to help them. Nobody's going to bat and say what you can do for black men to actually bring this along. You have individual programs that may help, what, 2 or 3%? And the programs that we always hear about, about IT, so the guy can make $100,000 a year, you're talking about another 1%? What about the 90% at the bottom? Trust and believe, we can only churn out so many IT guys. And then even then, after they saturate, they're going to see the same things that they see. Because trust and believe, the software engineers were already complaining about discrimination at certain companies. They've been doing that. We want to help the people to get to the top end. Nobody talks about the bottom end. Individually, you can do something, but the thing is, guess what's going to happen? And I hear this all the time. Oh, we just have to do your part individually. It takes a society to actually change. So you would not have had civil rights if the society had not acted. It's always a collective thing. You're not going to catch up. You're definitely not going to surpass them if this society keeps pouring money into the girls, pouring money into the women. And that's fine. If you really want to give up on the boys, you want to give up on men, and you don't want to advocate to actually help them, and you want to shame them, because all I hear is shaming language constantly. All I hear is shaming language toward men, especially from the purple pills. Like I said in my last video, the time for talk is over because you ain't got that much time. It may already be too late. You got to stop talking and start acting. Hell, you can't get a governor of one of the blackest states in the union to do anything or say anything about black boys. Took a white man to embarrass her. Took Caruso. Caruso is posing in front of a boys' school with all boys in Los Angeles. And we know black women really do not give a shit about black men. You don't. Stop it. The only reason you care about black men is what he can do for you. That's it. Just like he said, if you're not a utility, you're nothing in the black community. Rather providing sperm or labor. And when the state came in and started giving you funds and money and taking care of you, guess what happened? You realize what you've always realized. You don't need them, right? You don't need them. And if they can't give you a lifestyle to surpass you, you don't need them. You can do all the old saying, you can all do all bad all by yourself. But you thought that black men and black boys were going to continuing to be a target, a harpoon, a pincushion. But just like anybody else, black men are sick and tired of being sick and tired. They're done. And I have the funny feeling that this loyalty, this race loyalty, will die with Generation X. You see the problem with disease. You see the problem with the A's as far as black boys. And you think they're just acting out. It's in response to how you're treating them. Like the old African proverb. A little boy who did not feel the love from his village will grow up to be a man and burn it down so he can feel its warmth. It's really not even burning it down. People think it's going to be violence. When a civilization goes, when it leaves, when it actually comes apart, it's not violence. It's indifference. The black community is not going to suffer from violence. It's going to be indifference. What you see in the Z's, hell, what you see in all the men now is indifference, because it's not worth it to keep it together. You give black women political power, what do they do with it? Do they help the community? Do they help black men? No. They pull themselves up. And they're pissed because white men won't accept them as wives. That's what's really happening. They're pissed. They're not trying to qualify for black men. They're trying to qualify for white men. Bell Hooks said it. Clark said it. The divestors, as you speak, but the only thing that I can actually rock with divestors because they've been fucking honest. They're being honest. They will say what other black women won't say. All they're doing is saying what black women won't say. What black women are really pissed that they cannot be missing. Black women are pissed that they can't, that white men in this society won't elevate them. And what they really want us out of some kind of magic to actually conquer white men and elevate them to what the status that they want to be. And all I'm saying is fighting is fine, right? You can fight the battle if you want to. I forget who said it. I think it was Marcus that said it. But we really should have done it if we didn't. No, it was actually Obsidian that said it. We love America. You love America because if not, we should have left a long time ago. The warmth of other suns, the great migration. Why do you think the black men left the South? They were so oppressed and so pent down, and there was really almost no hope of actually defeating white men in their stronghold down in the South. Leave. Find other opportunities. Remember an old song, right? I think it was the Temptations, I think. The strong give up and move on, and the weak give up and stay. Listen to that book. It's depressing because you see the structure of this society, the structure of this westernized society that's spreading. You think being a Republican, changing a party, is going to do anything? Well, you think it's important helping import manual labor from across the border so they can make more money? Who thinks it shipped out your jobs? Think those were Democrats? Who do you think busted up your unions? Those were Democrats? The voting process works, but the thing is, you have to vote with your feet too. You got to vote with your hands. You got to do something to change people's worldview. And I'm getting fucking tired of all groups of people shaming black men and black boys. They can't even donate to a goddamn boys' school. You see the absolutely abysmal and pitiful grades in education that they give black boys, and the lack of resources being poured into them. They spend more money locking black men up. They spend way more money locking black men up than they spend on fucking welfare. And nobody says anything. They dump drugs into your community so they can win a war. Dropped a nuclear bomb into your community. Locked up your boys to clean up the mess, and nobody says anything. Allow white women to take affirmative action. And they blame the lack of generational wealth on black male baby boomers. They didn't work hard enough when they literally handed the wealth over to white women. But do your economists ever bring that up? Do they ever talk about it? They completely ignore the white woman because they're afraid of her. They're afraid if they talk about the white women, you won't get the crumbs that you've been getting. And it's fine. If you wanted to have it, by God, let her have it. If you want your woman to get all the benefits and all the help and all the resources before you get it, before your boys get it, by God, let them have it. If you want black men and black boys to keep fighting this rigged game, by God, let them do it. But at least be honest about it. At least be honest about it. Stop trying to get black men and black boys that are working with no boots to pull up the whole community by their bootstraps. A disadvantaged person cannot pull themselves up by their bootstraps. It's impossible. They got to get help. They got to get an opportunity from an outside source, a school, an educator, a job, money, an opportunity. Nobody does it by themselves. I don't care who you are. You look at any successful person's life, they worked hard, but somebody helped them. Somebody gave them an opportunity. That's the way it works. And if you're not going to do anything for black boys, you're not going to do anything for black men, if we have no right to ask for anything, stop, leave us alone. Let us find the warmth of other sons. Let them know that you basically are not going to get any help from your school, from your mother, from your women, or the society. Let them know. People get mad at SYSBM. People get upset at that hashtag. That SYSBM pisses women off and nationalists off to no end, right? Because it's selfish. But as I told Omar Wali when we had the interview, our women have consistently told us that if you want something to happen for black men and black boys, you're going to have to do it yourself. We're not going to help you. We're not going to advocate for our boys. We're not going to advocate for our men. If you don't do it, if you don't go to school and become a lawyer and get these men out of jail, we're not going to help you. Even though we get more law degrees than anybody else. You'll pick a guy at McDonald's to have a baby by and then go put it, and then have to report him to the welfare officer and get welfare and take half of his meager little check because you want to womb hustle the system, so you sacrifice him. How many black women that are advantaged actually talk about the black male homeless population? Because they don't care. Women are getting put out of their houses. It's a crisis. People are losing their goddamn minds because black women are getting put out of their homes and becoming homeless. Black men have been the biggest homeless population for decades. Nobody says shit because even now, they're the biggest homeless population. Nobody says anything because nobody fucking cares. Nobody cares. That's what the young man was saying. Nobody cares about you, even your own mother. Will they feel sorry for you? Perhaps, if you're lucky. Will they feel pity for you? Perhaps, if you're lucky. But they're not going to help you be better, are they? That's for your sister. That's for your cousin. That's the money we're going to spend on her baby shower. We're going to help her get a house because we don't want her to depend on a man. So they take from you and give it to her because you need to get it for yourself. She needs an education because she needs to be independent. So take it from you because you need to get it for yourself. Anyway, that's my thought for today. I'm going to finish the Reeves book, but the thing is, it's already starting to piss me off. The white guy from the UK advocating for black boys, advocating for black men and boys. That's more than our own women will do. Have a white man advocating, quoting Tommy Curry, a white man talking about black male studies, which our own black females hate it, fight against it, trying to kill it. If that don't tell you something, nothing else will. Anyway, but those are our women, right? Our women, right? Our loved ones, right? Right. Anyway, without further ado, this is BGS out, and I'll see you guys on the next one.